Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Learn Photography with Duck. We're going to be doing something a little bit different. Normally we do our Lightroom sessions in the studio, but as you can see, because of the coronavirus lockdown and everybody being quarantined, we've moved it to this platform. So we're going to try something new. Don't know how it's going to go, but the discussion tonight is Adobe Lightroom Classic. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask your questions. I know a couple of you don't have microphones, so I'm going to try my best to monitor the chat. I can't guarantee anything because that part of it is all new to me as well. So we're all going to be learning something a little bit new, working with this new platform and trying to do this interactively over the internet. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is open this up and ask you guys, okay, what are you having problems with in Lightroom? What are your issues? Go ahead and give me whatever questions you may have. Any questions about Lightroom that they need to have answered? All right, otherwise I'll just go into my prepared class. Anybody?
Yes, can I ask a fast question?
Sure. Oh, hey, you got your mic working.
I got another mic on, yes. My question is, what I found with Lightroom is it has its own system of cataloging photos. I personally love Bridge.
Okay.
Can I still use Bridge all the time and use Lightroom?
Okay, so Bridge is a kind of like a file browser that allows you to very quickly locate your image and then be able to do a certain amount of stuff to it and then or parse it out to Photoshop. Bridge uses your underlying file structure, meaning that wherever you put your images in the file folders on your hard drive, Bridge uses that file structure, okay? Lightroom does the exact same thing, except Lightroom takes it a few steps above what Bridge does, okay? What it does is it says, okay, the only images that I'm going to show you in Lightroom are the images that you say you want in the catalog. Whereas Bridge will scour through and show you everything that's in your file structure, whether you want to see it or not. Okay, so that's one of the initial differences. Okay. The second one is that you have instant access to keywording, to editing right within Lightroom, and then very seamlessly exporting out to Photoshop and then bringing it back in. All right. Now I know within Bridge you can kind of sort of do the same thing. All right. Export it. All right, and bring it back in. And also with Bridge, like Lightroom, you can rate your images. You can use color ratings. You can use star ratings. And I believe you can also use the flag ratings. Okay. So which one is better? It's entirely on your workflow and what you feel comfortable with.
Oh, I love, well, with Bridge, I label everything 2020, 04, 06, everything, every folder. And then I use keywords. And I can actually Boolean sort my photos with my FileMaker database. As long as I input, I can find them.
Right, and it's the same thing with
Right.
Lightroom. All right. And yes, and that's goes into having a proper workflow where you can utilize those tools. Obviously, those tools don't work if you don't put the work before it. You know, such as keywording. You can't sort by keywords if you don't keyword on your initial ingest. Okay.
Labeling is everything. Yes, totally agree.
Absolutely. And even that underlying structure, that's one of the things that I'm always harping on, is make sure that your underlying structure, meaning your folders on your hard drive, separate of any program, separate from Bridge, separate from Lightroom. All right, make sure that that structure is well organized. So that way you can find things outside of any program. You won't have to rely on Bridge. You don't have to rely on Lightroom to find your images. Okay. However, Bridge and Lightroom utilize that structure in order to, you know, create the catalog. Right. But it really is a matter of personal preference as to which one you want to use. Me personally, I like the flexibility of Lightroom. I've always found Bridge a little bit too cumbersome, so I never pursued it. All right. However, a lot of people say that Bridge is a lot faster.
Oh yeah.
You know, simply because it's not. So once you import an image into Lightroom, what it does is it creates a database in the background. All right, and that database consists of like a thumbnail, or what's called a preview. It's basically a thumbnail. It maintains a database of the keywords, any rating system, any metadata, all right, and of course all your editing settings for that particular image. Okay, now a lot of those settings are written directly to the file, so that way when you transfer the file, some of those settings travel with the file, but not all of them. All right. For example, metadata, any metadata that you add in addition to what the camera adds, whether it's in Bridge or in Lightroom, gets written right into the file, your raw file. And then when you transfer it to something else, that data will go with it. Okay. However, any edits will not get written to the file. All right. That needs to be done on a separate, in a separate file. And that's a whole different discussion. All right.
Thank you.
So, all right. Any other questions? All right. So, what I want to cover.
This is Natasha. I actually posted my question in the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I guess I'm hoping that this is going to be covered during your presentation, so I don't want you to spend any time answering it if that's true. But my challenge with Lightroom is workflow. If you have an established workflow, I would really love to see that.
I don't know if you can see it, but that's exactly what I'm going to be discussing today.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Awesome. And yeah, don't be afraid to use the microphone, because like I said, the chat window is like literally on my secondary screen all the way at the end. So if I'm focusing this way, I'm not really seeing that. So feel free to just vocalize whatever questions you have. All right. So actually my presentation today is exactly on establishing a good workflow. All right. So what is a workflow? Basically, a workflow is a series of steps that take you through a process that is designed to be efficient and repeatable. Okay? Because what you're wanting to do is, as you're processing images, you want to get it done as quickly but as effectively as possible. You don't want to spend hours and hours and hours. Okay? For me, as a commercial artist, time is important. All right. If I shoot an event and I have 500, 600 images, if I take my time with those, I'm going to be all night editing images. So I want to be able to fly through them very, very quickly. I also want to batch process a lot of them very, very quickly. The faster I get through a set of images, the better it is for me. I won't get a headache. I won't get, red eye from staring at the screen all night long. All right. And my wife will appreciate it because I'm not glued to the computer. All right. So, my workflow tends to be fairly simple. All right. And it's basically 3 steps. The first step is I go and ingest and cull, meaning I sort through all my images. All right. So my workflow starts the minute all my images come into Lightroom. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all those images. I'm going to weed out the images that I don't want to spend time on and just concentrate on the images worth editing. All right, the second part is once I've done the culling, I will normalize that set of images that I'm going to edit. And then after I've normalized it, I will go ahead and do my more creative editing. Okay, so that's pretty much my workflow. And then after that, I just batch process them out in an export and I'm done. All right, so let's break this down a little bit more. All right, let me share my screen here. All right, so just for this example, I have here 78 images that I took during a workshop. All right, now these images, they're not the best images, all right? But I'm using this particular folder as an example because I really haven't done very much with this folder. I've actually gone through and culled it a little bit, but this is typical of a shoot, all right? You take pictures of a subject, all right, and you may say, oh, well, the first picture I took is kind of crappy. The exposure was off, the lighting was off, the color balance was off, whatever it is, and you make adjustments on your camera, then you shoot it again, all right, and then you come home and you have 3, 4, 5 pictures of the exact same thing, but only one of those 5 is going to be the one worth editing, all right? So after I ingest everything, meaning everything's brought into Lightroom, okay, it's going to create my folder, all right, and then the first thing I do is I am going to rename the folder and append a real world title that gives me a clue as to what the contents of the folder is. Because again, we want to be able to utilize this folder structure outside of any software, okay? So in this case, it was from a texture workshop, all right? So I have all my images, and the first thing I want to do is cull through and pick out just the images that I want to work on. All right, so this is how it works. Right off the bat, all right, in this particular folder, I have 78 images. Right off the bat, I'm going to say to myself, I hate every single one of those. Every single one of them is not worth me editing. Okay, so if that's the basis, I have no work to do. Okay, but the reality is that there are images there that are worth editing. Okay, but I'm going to assume that none of them are worth editing. That gives me my baseline. Okay, so from there I can go one of 2 ways. I can elevate it to something that I want to edit, or I can reduce it to something that no matter what, it'll never ever get edited and it's going to get trashed. All right. So from my baseline, I can go one of two ways. All right. So by default, my baseline is 0. All right. So now, understanding this, there are two ways that are fairly popular as far as picking which one it is that you want to edit. Okay. One is through the use of flags, which is my preferred method. All right. And Lightroom allows you to, it has 3 flag states. Okay. And let me see if I can bring it up. Okay. All right. So flagging, and let me put rating. Okay. So right down here, I am in, actually, let me open that. I'm in my library. Okay. And I have my toolbar open, and to get the toolbar, you just hit the letter T. Okay. And here are my states. I can have a flag that is picked or a flag that is rejected. All right. So by default, all of these are unpicked. So that's my baseline. They're all unpicked. Okay. So from there, I can go to a picked state, meaning there's interest in editing that. Or I can go to a rejected state, meaning there's something terribly wrong with that image that I'm just going to throw it away. And it does happen. One of the most common things that occur to me is because, let me go. I tend to carry my camera on a strap that crosses my shoulder like this. So my camera tends to bang against my hip. You don't know how many times I've come home from an event with 3, 4, 5, even a dozen pictures of a sidewalk or a floor or my feet. Because during the day, the camera will bump and actually hit the shutter. All right. So I know those images, I will never do anything with them. All right. So there's no sense holding on to them. They're going to be marked as rejected. Okay. All right. The other method, all right. Oh, and first of all, the flag method is what's called a culling down method. Cull means to sort. All right. So you're sorting down. So you're going from 78 images. All right. And every image that you pick, all right, will be something that you're going to save. So let's say out of these 78 images, there's a dozen images that I want to save. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cull down from 78 to 12. Okay. The other method is to use the star ratings. All right. And this is considered culling up because you're going to be ranking from a 1-star up to a 5-star. All right. And I'm sure everybody's familiar with star rating. A 1-star means that it's lower on the organizational scale than a 5-star. You know, think of it like a restaurant. A 1-star restaurant is decent, but it's not going to have the same quality of food as a 5-star restaurant. Or a hotel. You can stay at a 1-star hotel, which has decent bedding, to a 5-star hotel, which you're going to get the chocolates on the bed. Okay? So it's the same process. And the way the star process works is, again, you start off with a baseline that none of the images are going to be edited. So they all have a 0 stars. As you go through, you're going to say, okay, this image has potential. I'm going to give it a star. All right. And you're not going to determine, all right, let me figure out if this image is better than this image. All right, you're not going to worry about that at this stage. All right, so if you have 5 images that look the same with just a slight difference, and there's 2 of them out of that 5 that you know, tweak your attention, you give it a 1 star. Okay, so you go through all the images, and every one that captures your attention, you're going to give it a star. Okay, then you're going to go through the whole process all over again. So you've gone from 78 to maybe 25 with a single star. But out of those 25, you might notice that there's a couple of duplicates. At this point, some of these images are going to go from a 1 star to a 2 star. Okay? When it elevates to a 2 star, it automatically devalues the 1 star. All right? And you're going to go through it like that until you get to 5 stars. Or whatever limit you set for yourself. Some people say, well, you know what? The way actually, I'll give you a real world example. A photographer that I know prefers the star method. And the way he works it is, if there is potential in an image, he will immediately give it a 1 star. When there are multiple images, and there's one that is better than any of the other, he will go up to a 2 star. All right? As he's going through, he's also going to be on the lookout for those wow images. Okay? And the wow images are the ones that are the cream of the crop, the best out of the whole entire set. And you'll find that no matter where or when you shoot, what the subject is, you're going to get that one really, really strong image. All right? And when he comes across those, he'll automatically bump it up to a 4. Okay? Right off the bat. It bypasses the number 2. He'll bump it up to, usually he bumps it past a 3. He'll give it a 4. Not quite a 5. All right? And then all his 2s, he'll go through them again. All right? And he'll elevate some of those to a 3. Okay? And that's where he stops, at the 3. Anything that's 3 or above, he's going to edit. Anything 2 and below, he's not going to bother with. All right? So anything that's marked with a 4, all right, he'll look through and he may pick out 1 or 2 that he may feel is worthy of a 5 star. And those for him are very, very rare. For him, he tends to reserve the 5 stars for something that's going to be worthy of putting into his portfolio. Okay? So he doesn't just discriminately gives out 5 stars. He's very particular. Okay? But what he'll do is he'll edit anything that's 3 stars and above. All right? So that's his system. Okay? That right there is part of your workflow. Okay? And the way it works here in Lightroom is you have several tools that are available. All right. First of all, you have the grid view, which allows you to view multiple images in one shot. So you can see the first, the first 11 images are of this blank wall. All right. Now, the workshop we were doing was, looking for texture. All right. So these 11 images that I'm taking, I'm actually explaining to my students what to look for as far as textures, how to light it. So in this batch, you're going to see a lot of crappy images because I was purposely making crappy images in order to illustrate the lesson. All right. But this may be typical of a situation that you find yourself where it took you a couple of shots to get comfortable with your settings for that particular scene. And then once you got into the settings, then you started really playing around with the artistic aspect of it. All right. It's very common. It's nothing to be ashamed of. All right. So you may have 10, 11 shots. All right. And 9 or 10 of those aren't going to be worth it. Okay. Well, by default, they're all not worth it. All right. So at this point, I might say, you know what? Out of all those 11, I kind of like number 11, the last one I took, because by that point, I had worked out all my bugs and I was happy with the results. So that's the image that I'm going to spend time editing. Okay. So for me, I prefer the flag method. All right. Because for me, it's either I'm going to edit it or I'm not going to edit it. Okay. There's no in-betweens for me. Okay. But like, again, it's whatever works good for you. All right. And what I can do is, because I can see multiple images. All right. Here's another set of 8 images of a very close-up picture of a texture. All right. I might say, you know, I kind of like this particular texture, so I'm going to give it a flag. All right. So I'm going to go through the entire set of images. I'm going to say, oh, I like that one. All right. You can see I've actually picked some. Okay. You can say, all right, I like, that's kind of it. All right. So here's a slightly different situation. Okay. So I have 2. All right. Both of them may be usable. All right. But it's hard to see at the thumbnail level. All right. At this point, what I want to do is I want to be able to compare it at a slightly larger scale. So Lightroom allows me to kind of like hide everything else except the ones I want to concentrate on. Okay. And if we look at a toolbar here, all right, we have our grid view, which is the view we are in now. I can go into loop view, which basically just brings that one image and puts it into the forefront. All right, so if I want to look at a close-up of this image, all I have to do is click on the loop view. All right, and if you notice there, it also, actually, you know what? Here. Right here, you can hit the letter E. The letter E allows you to go right into the loop view. All right, and I'm a big proponent of shortcuts. It makes your life easier when you have the shortcuts. Okay, G for grid, E for loop. All right, E, or you can call it E for expand. Okay, and that will give you a larger representation of your image on your screen. All right, this allows you to check for things like focus. Did you nail the focus properly? Because when you are in the grid view, you may not be able to tell which one of these has the better focus. Okay, so being able to zoom in to check that detail is a great tool. Okay, if you want to see multiple images, like in this one, you have the survey mode. Okay, and this allows you to however many images you have selected. So let's say, for example, I have these 4 images. What it does is it hides everything except whatever you have selected. Okay, and you can say, well, this one, it's not what I want, so I can remove that. All right, oops. All right, and if you use the backslash, it'll automatically remove it. Okay, so now you can say, okay, well, this one here is too dark. Let me remove it. So it's between these two. They're both decent for possible uses for texture. All right. So you can say, well, you know, I like this one, so I'm going to pick that one. Oops. Make sure you have auto zinc off. All right. Otherwise, it's going to pick everything. All right. And then right here, oops, right here, it shows you that you picked that particular image. So notice how it has the white border. The white border lets you know that's the image that has focus. And then I hit the P, the letter P picks it. All right. And it gives it that little flag. All right. Down here, there's no flag. All right. It's unpicked. All right. Then we can go back to the grid view and keep moving through our images. All right. So I can take a range, hit the letter N, say, okay, out of all of these, I kind of like that one the best. Okay. I can come down to my film strip, move to my next set, and say, okay, well, I kind of like this one. Go ahead and pick that one. Go through the next set and say, okay, well, I kind of, I'll take that one. All right, so now you can move very, very quickly through a set of images. All right, so I can go through, in this manner, I can go through about 300 images in about 10 minutes. Okay, because when you compare images, all right, when you're able to compare side by side, you can tell which one it is that you want to spend your time editing. If I were to go one at a time, all right, you're looking at one, but you have nothing to compare against. So now you have to put this one into memory, go to the next one and say, okay, which one was better? This one or this one? This one or this one? Well, this one's a little bit better. Okay. But hey, you know, we also got this one. All right. Which one is better? All right. So now you have to flip flop, and that just extends your time. So being able to view a range, all right, and at any time you can say, okay, well, which one is better, this one or this one? All right, let's get rid of this, backslash, get rid of this one, backslash, get rid of this one, backslash. I'm going to keep the two best. Okay, now they've taken up a bigger space on my screen. I can take a closer look. And if I want to get even more personal, from here, I can go to my E to expand the view, and I can use my arrow keys to toggle through. And because I only have two images selected, I'm only going to toggle those two images. All right. And you can say, well, I kind of like this image. Okay. So I'm able to fly through a lot of images very, very quickly. Okay, so that's using the flag status. Okay, let me go. All right, here's a different scenario where we can go and look through based on stars. Okay, so this was at an event. All right, which would be kind of typical of a situation you might find yourself in. All right. And you notice that all the images are kind of different from each other. Okay. I'm at a point where once I set my camera to a certain environment, I don't have to keep checking my settings and making sure that I got the picture okay. I'm fairly confident in my equipment to know that I can take one or two shots and I've nailed the shot. Okay, so you're not going to see a lot of duplicates here. all right? But there are a few, all right? However, what I want to do is I want to go through and I want to pick all the ones that I want to spend time editing, okay? Now, in the grid view, I can display however many images I want within the grid by using the plus and minus keys. All right, so here I can go and I can say, all right, I want to fill up my screen a little bit more. So I'm going to expand my thumbnails. Okay. If this is not enough space, I can also get rid of my panels on the left and my panels on the right, because at this point I really don't need them. All right. So the tab key allows me to expand out even further. Okay. And if I want, I could even close my top panel. Okay. So now I can maximize my screen. All right. And I can say, okay, well, that's kind of a throwaway shot. All right. That was actually my first shot that I took to make sure that all my camera settings were working properly. I'm shooting with a flash, all right, on a bracket above my camera. So this was my test shot to make sure that I was nailing my exposure. All right. Once I'm in the event, I can just walk around, and because I know my equipment, I maintain my distance for my flash, and I know that I'm going to nail my exposure. Okay. So at this point I says, well, I just want to pick the images that are the most interesting. All right. The ones that have kind of like some kind of interaction going on here. Okay. So I can see this whole top row. Out of that whole top row, this image here is the only one that kind of has any kind of interest. Okay. So I might pick that one. This one has interest, but even at this scale, I can see he's a little soft. All right, so I may have missed the focus on him. All I have to do is expand it, letter E, and I can say, okay, yeah, my focus is on this guy in the back. All right, but there's a lack of interest in this image altogether. Okay. Can I salvage it? Well, maybe. All right, I can try cropping it, but these are decisions I can make later on down the road. Okay. However, on initial observation, I'm not liking this, so I'm probably not going to even bother picking it. Okay. Likewise, this image, the person's back is towards me, and this person whose face I can see isn't even registered into the camera, so it's a weak image. I'm probably not going to use it. All right, so I go back to my grid, and I'm going to come down. All right, and here is a perfect example. All right, this image and then the next two following images. All right. Now I identified my problem, my initial shot. You can see my next two shots. All right, if I exclude everything else, all right, I reposition myself to see if I can get both their faces in the frame. Okay, so I jockeyed myself into position. I took one shot, all right, because it's a live event. Okay, I don't know how long people are going to stay in their positions. All right, I took a shot and I moved in closer. And out of these three shots, this third one is the strongest because I get both their faces interacting with the display. All right, so that's going to be the one I pick. And there it is. I hit the letter P, it picks it, and I'm back to moving on. All right, now this is taking a little slow because I'm explaining the process. All right, oh, actually, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be using the stars. Okay. All right, so let me put the star. All right, number 1, and this is done through your number keys. Number 1 is a 1 star all the way up to number 5 being a 5 star and 0 being no stars. All right, so that one and that one get a 1. Okay, and then I go on and I look through. This is kind of boring. This one and this one, it's between these two. He's a little soft. All right, this one's a little bit stronger. Probably if I strain it out. All right, so I'm going to give this a 1. I move on. Some B-roll. All right. This is a little soft. This one here, I'm going to give it a 1. This one, yeah, I'll give it a 1. Why not? All right. This one, definitely give it a 1. All right. We have these two. That's kind of boring compared to this one. All right. So I'm going to give this one a 1. All right. I'm going to move on to the next set. All right. Now at this point, I'm bypassing the grid view and I'm just using the compare view. All right. And I'm going with the timeline or my film strip at the bottom. So I click on the first in series, hold the shift key, click on the last one in the series, and I'm presented with just that selection. All right. This one's kind of boring. The second one has a nice subject front and center. And then the third one is kind of like the first one, kind of boring. So out of those three, the middle one gets a 1. All right. And I have my little star there. And I'm going to keep moving like this. All right. Terrible, terrible, terrible. This one all right. So let me backslash removes it, backslash removes that one, and backslash removes that one. I'm left with these two. Out of these two, which one is the stronger one? Okay. Well, here the dog is kind of behind this boy here in the foreground, while this one here is not. Yet his attention's on the cake. That might be a little bit more interesting than looking here. These are the decisions you're going to need to make when you're a photographer. All right. I prefer this one a little bit more because of the engagement. So I'm going to give that a 1. All right. And I'm going to move on. All right. I like this one. That gets a 1. This one, that gets a 1. This one or this one, there's more interaction here. So I'm going to give that a 1. Move on to my next set. This one. All right. I want to check. All right. I have a question about his face. All right. Yeah, it looks kind of like he's stoned out a little bit. I caught him mid-blink. Do I want to post this? To be fair to this poor guy, no. So I'm going to bypass it. Okay. So get rid of that one. It's between these three. This one, or this one. All right. I actually like that one and I like that one. So I'm going to give those a number 1. Okay. Both of these get a number 1. These two are similar. This one is a better shot. That one gets a number 1. All right. So you can see I can go through this fairly quickly. All right. Number 1. Number 1. Nothing there. All right. Number 1, number 1. Maybe, definitely, yes. Okay. All right. So now I have all my number 1s. Okay. I've gone through. I now go and I want to segregate my number 1s from my 0s. All right. And the way we do that is right up here, okay, just below our top panel, we have a filter. And if you don't see the filter, it's the backslash, okay? Backslash turns the filter on, okay? Here we have attribute. What I can do is I can filter through by attribute. So now what I want to do is I want to click I want to show anything that is greater than or equal to a 1 star. Okay? Anything or greater than a 1 star. All right? So now you can see the only thing
Doc?
that is selected are my single stars.
Doug,
Yo.
that greater than or equal to, does that also include flags, or do you have to do that separately?
No, because flags, it's either on or off. There's no
Okay.
greater, you don't have a greater than 1 flag.
Okay.
All right. So, but yeah, good question. So because there are multiple stars, you can limit to, greater than, all right? Or you can do less than, all right? So it's a Boolean filter. You can go greater than or less than or equal to, all right? So if you only want to show just your, let's say, for example, just your 2-star ratings and exclude everything else, you can set it to rating is equal to, okay? But in this case, because we're going to be culling up, right? I want to make sure that it's equal to or greater than, all right? And now I can say, okay, well, out of these, which ones are going to be my number 2s? All right, so I'm going to increase my size here, and it says, okay, well, this one is pretty weak compared to this one. So this one gets a 2. This one, now skip that one. This one gets a 2. All right, this one definitely gets a 2. This one gets, no. All right. That one gets a 2. That one gets a 2. This one definitely gets a 2. All right, so now I can move fairly quickly. 2, 2, 2. All right, because I don't have to worry about things like focus. All right, because I've already resolved that in my initial pick. Right now, I'm just picking the stronger of the set. All right, so this one definitely gets a 2. This one gets a 2. And this one gets a 2. And why not that one? Okay. All right, so now I've gone through and picked the strongest of that set. All right, now I can go back up my rating, and I can now go show me just everything that's 2 or greater. Okay, so out of those, I don't know how many it was, I've reduced it down to just these. All right, and I can say, well, I kind of like this one. I want to spend some time on that one, and I want to spend time on this one. All right, so I'm going to elevate those to level 3 or 3 stars. Okay, so now my work in culling is done. I've set kind of like a standard for myself using the stars as to which ones I'm going to spend a lot of time with and which ones I'm just going to do just let's get it out there. Okay. All right. Any questions about culling? That part of the workflow is now done. Any questions? Let me pull up. Let's see. Trevor says, I definitely need some help with editing. That's what we're going to go into next. Okay. But any questions on how to sort through and remove the wheat from the chaff, so to speak? We're good? Okay. All right. Now, at this point, what I will do is I will do a mechanical, I guess you can call it, an actual physical separation. All right? Because right now, even though I have technically separated my 1 stars, my 2 stars, and my 3 stars from my 0 stars, all right, they're all in the same folder. Okay? The only thing that is telling me what the differences are between any of these is the program. All right, so if I were to go in from another program or just from my file browser, actually, let me go ahead and open up my file browser. Bring this over here. All right, here's my photos. All right, and they are in what, 2019? Oddities Market. Okay, where is it? Okay. There is nothing here that tells me what my 1 stars are, what my 2 stars are, what my 3 stars are. All right. So what I want to do is I want to physically remove all my 0 stars out of this folder. And I want to put it into a separate folder, okay? And the way I do that is I will go up to my filters bar, okay? And right now, I am filtering anything that is 2 stars or greater, okay? I want to reverse that. I want Lightroom to show me just the ones that are no stars, all right? So I will bring that to less than or equal to, all right, no stars, all right? Or I could even say equal to no stars, okay? So now, if I look through, you're going to see that there is, all of these images have no stars, all right? Oh, remember I said there are going to be instances of images that no matter what, you'll never keep? Here's 2 of them. All right. I will never keep these. The little boy put his hand in front of my lens, blocking, we're, playing around. He's blocking the lens. All right. I took a picture of it. Am I going to keep this? No, absolutely not. All right. So I'm going to, at this point, I can go ahead and just say delete those 2. Okay. So delete the selected master photo from the disk. All right. Or just remove it from Lightroom. All right. These 2 are selected. I'm just going to go ahead and say delete it from disk. I'll never use them. All right. Oh, delete from disk. Okay. All right. Now that I have just my 0 value images, these are images I will never spend any time editing. I want to remove them from this folder. So I'm going to do Control A or Command A for you Mac people to select all of them. Okay. Once they're all selected, I'm going to go to my file structure here on the left-hand side. I'm going to right-click and I'm going to say Create Folder. All right. Right here, right-click, Create Folder, okay? And it's going to say, it's going to ask me to give it a name. For me, I call them seconds. The reason I call them seconds is because these are secondary images to my primary pick, all right? They're going to move to a separate folder. I'm not going to delete them just yet. Just in case I need one of those images for any purpose whatsoever. I'm not going to delete them. Okay? So I'm going to call it seconds, and I'm going to say, make sure that this one that says include selected photos is checked. All right? Because what it's going to do is Lightroom is automatically going to move them into that subfolder. So it's going to create a subfolder called seconds, and it's going to move all those images into the subfolder. All right. Takes a couple seconds. All right. And now you can see my central work area is empty. And the reason it's empty is because I'm still filtering out anything that says ratings of 0 and above. Okay. So I'm going to go to none. I'm going to remove my filters. And now all I have are my 1s, 2s, and 3s. Okay? And at this point, I can say, all right, I just want to show anything that's 2 and above. All right? Okay? So I have my 1s here, okay? But I'm not going to bother editing those. I'm just going to concentrate on my 2s and 3s, okay? If I decide that I want to edit my 1s, all right, I will go ahead and do it, okay? Now, if I bring back my file browser, you can see that I've now physically segregated all my images that are worth spending time on because I've gave them a rating, all right? Still can't see if they're 1s, 2s, or 3s, all right? And again, this is why I prefer the flag method, okay? But I know that everything in this folder is at least a 1 star, okay? Everything in my subfolder are my 0 stars. They're tucked out of the way. I don't have to worry about them, okay? Make sense? All right. So now we go into this next part of the workflow. And this is where I will normalize an image, all right? What do I mean by normalize? During an event, all right, lighting situation may have changed. You may have missed your exposure by, half a stop, 2/3 of a stop, maybe even a full stop, but it's still a worthy image for editing, okay? Or maybe you held the camera a little bit too crooked, all right? The picture came out a little crooked, all right? Or maybe you shot a little bit too wide, all right? Or the color balance is slightly off, okay? What you're gonna go do now is you wanna make sure that all your images in this selection are properly white balanced, are corrected for horizons, make sure everything's nice and straight, okay? You want to make sure that the exposures are even across the set of images, okay? That's what is meant by normalizing, all right? These are non-artistic edits. These are just very technical corrections to your image, all right? So at this point, we can go right into, oh, no. Do this from our grid view, all right? We can say, okay, this one, we have a really bright spot, all right? This one here has a very bright spot, all right? So what I might do is I might want to select those two, and then over on my right-hand side, I have my quick develop tool.
Hey, Duck.
Yo.
We're seeing you and we're not seeing your screen.
Oh, sorry. That's what I get for not checking. Thanks for pointing it out. All right, so these two images, we have this hot spot in the upper left corner, all right, because so they're kind of pulling the eye away, all right. From the excuse me, from the grid view, I have my quick develop tab, all right. I can open that up, and I can go to my whites or my highlights, okay, and I can start reducing those down, all right. And just by looking at these two, I can see how it's now decreasing those hot spots. So I can do a very kind of like major brush stroke here type of editing, all right. It's nothing nuanced, all right. Maybe even this one, I might want to bring my highlights down a little bit because of that turban hat, okay. I can open up my shadows, all right. Maybe this one and this one, I want to open up my shadows a little bit. This one, that one, okay. So I can do it right from this panel. All right. And the way this works is the ones with the little double arrows. The ones with the double arrows, that will increase or decrease by full stop. The ones with a single arrow is by a third of a stop. Okay. So you're able to do some rough editing right from the grid view. Okay. So you can scan through and you can say, all right, well, that one, I want to open up my shadows a little bit. This one, I want to open up my shadows a little bit. Okay. So now, once that's done, you're a lot closer to a finished product. All right. And all without really breaking the sweat. Okay. Everybody with me so far? All right. So now, once the major brush strokes are done, now I can go ahead and go into my develop module, all right here, and I can now determine what kind of editing I want to do. All right, and at this point, I can even bring out any presets for my editing. So for example, I like using vignette, so I might add a little vignette. All right, just to bring a little bit closer attention. All right, I might add a little bit of a gradient. All right, and for the purpose of this image, my editing is done. Okay, and then I can just go to the next one. All right, I see that there's a bright spot up here, there's a bright spot here, but I want my attention, my viewer's attention to going here. All right, so maybe I'll just use a circular gradient here in this case. All right, where I will burn down, okay, and maybe toss up my exposure a little bit. All right, so now I've just shifted, within just a couple of clicks, I've shifted the viewer's attention from all over the place, sorry about that, to where I want to direct the eye. All right, if I want to do some cropping, I can do that as well. All right. So here you can spend a little more time with your edit to get it looking the way you want. Okay. This one's definitely use a vignette. Okay. Maybe even some, it's a little soft. All right. So I might just, fix that.
Hey, Doc, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm frozen on an image. I'm not seeing what you're doing.
Yeah, it's probably you.
Same here.
Yeah, unfortunately I have no control over the streaming. So
No problem. Just keep going. I didn't know if it was something else.
Yeah. I don't know, but like I said, I'm recording it, so any glitches, you'll be able to review this later on and hopefully get something out of it later if you're not getting it all right now. Okay. All right. So anyhow, at this stage we can move fairly quickly because we've done a bulk of the editing already. All right, and once you get into a routine, your editing is going to go very, very quickly. All right. But now Trevor had a good point. He needs help editing. And a lot of beginners need, it's not that they need help editing, is that they need help understanding what to edit. All right. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay. After a while, you'll be able to get to a point where you can look at an image and say, okay, well, this, and this needs to be fixed. and then you just go right to it. Okay, but that comes with time and practice. All right, so I'm at a point where I can go through and I have a collection in my back of my head of things that I know will make my images look a little bit better, like adding a vignette, all right, to bring the attention in a little bit closer, all right, maybe controlling my shadows and highlights to bring people's faces, you know, forward, okay. All these, you know, little tricks, okay, to kind of boost the viewer quality, I guess you can call it, of the image. Okay, now these aren't, you know, top-notch images that I'm here. These are all from an event, so they're not going to win any awards. They're not going to go into any competition. All right, so the editing that I'm doing here for these particular images are down and dirty. All right, they're designed to get the images out as quickly as possible and onto the client's website. Okay, I know a lot of you, you know, you're not dealing with clients, but maybe you're taking family photos. All right, you want to be able to share them, you know, maybe if not that day, maybe the next day. You know, you don't want your family saying, gee, you know, Uncle Christopher took pictures of the event a month ago. Where are they? All right, you don't want to, you know, you don't want that. Okay, you want to get them out as quickly as possible, and you also don't want to be spending hours and hours and hours. Okay, so here, you know, we're just gonna run through very quickly, add what we need to do, maybe add a little reduce. All I'm doing literally is dodging and burning. I'm using tools to dodge and burn. Okay, I'm using my vignette to burn the edges. It brings attention in towards the center. I'm using my graduated filter, all right, in this case, to burn the lower section, to bring the viewer's eye up, get rid of that very bright coffee Dunkin' Donuts cup there. All right, I want to make this area here the brighter area. All right, so that coffee cup was competing. Let's knock it down. Okay, this is the brightest spot. I want my attention over here. All right, so I might use a gradient to knock her down a little bit. Okay, so now all of a sudden, and maybe even just open her up. All right, let's invert. Oops, click on the invert there. All right, there. Okay, now she's in the forefront. Okay, I shifted the attention from here to here. That's editing. Okay, down and dirty. Okay, get the gist of it. I'm not going to go through the whole thing and edit all of these, but that's my routine. All right, so the first part is you go through, you cull your images, bring them down to just the ones that you want to spend time on. Okay, take a few minutes to normalize them, and you saw how very quickly I did that right in the grid view. Okay, again, I started off with really good images exposure wise, so I really didn't need to do a lot of normalizing. Okay, and then I go into doing my more artistic edits on a single per image basis. All right, now once that's done, I go back to my grid view, I select them all, and I can now export them for whatever it is that I need to export them to, whether it's going to a client, whether it's going to my portfolio, whether I'm sharing it on social media and, you know, Facebook and Instagram, whatever it is, this is where I will export it. And then my job is done. Okay? Any questions? Hit me up. Natasha, thank you. Appreciate the comment. She says, that was great. Thank you. Okay. So hopefully that gave you an idea of what a typical workflow is for me, something that now hopefully you can take and incorporate into yours. Now, the one thing I will say is, even though I gave you a starting point, what you're going to find is that you're going to tweak it and you're going to modify this workflow to work with the way you prefer to work. All right. So don't think you have to do it my way. It's not like my way is the right way. All right. It's just hopefully a starting point for you. All right. If you're not familiar with where to start, hopefully now it gives you a starting point. And as you progress, you're going to say, hey, for me, it makes better sense to do this than to do this. All right. And then you're going to make swaps. You're going to maybe reverse things, do something at the beginning instead of at the end. Okay. Some things may take a higher priority. All right. So you're going to modify your workflow according to the way you like to work. But the core of any workflow is you want to be consistent and efficient. Okay? All right. Best way, let's see, Trevor, best way to practice editing on old edited images? So, okay. Let me go back to my texture workshop. All right. I haven't separated these, but excuse me one second. I'm going to be rude. My voice is scratchy. All right. Here I have an image that I edited earlier today. I edited this, and this is actually going to be posted on my Instagram and Facebook on Wednesday. So you're getting a preview of it. All right. This image here. All right. So I'm assuming what you're asking, Trevor, is that here's an image.
Your image isn't up.
I'm sorry, what?
I don't believe your image is up. I'm only seeing you.
Yeah. See, I'm still not used to this. Thank you. All right, so here's an image that I edited earlier today. All right, and if I understand your question properly, Trevor, is you have an image that you've already edited, and now you want to possibly re-edit. All right, but not necessarily lose the edits. Is that how I'm reading it correct? Okay, awesome. He says yes. All right. Fortunately, Lightroom allows us to create multiple virtual copies. All right. So now the way Lightroom works is you have your underlying image, which is your raw file. All right. The raw file, you can't touch it. You can't edit it. Okay. Because it's just ones and zeros. Okay. When you ingest it into Lightroom, Lightroom creates a JPEG from that image. All right. And that's your preview. So it's typically a lower resolution JPEG of your raw. Okay. So what you're looking at when you're editing is you're actually looking at a JPEG of the raw file. Okay, because we're working non-destructively, all right, whenever we make an edit, all right, what Lightroom is doing, it's creating a recipe card, all right, and it's saying for this raw image, I want you to do this, A, B, C, D, E. Add a little pinch of salt, add a little pinch of pepper, mix thoroughly, spit out a polished image. Okay? But now you say, hey, you know, that recipe is for Italian style. I want it French style. Okay? We already have the ingredients, which is the raw file. Okay? All we need is a new recipe card. All right? So I don't know if you can follow that analogy. All right, so what we're going to do is we have here our initial recipe. What we're going to do is I'm going to right click, okay, and right down the middle it says create virtual copy. I'm going to click on that and it's going to duplicate what I just did. All right, and you can see that it is a duplicate because of that little turned up corner. Okay, actually, let me see if I can zoom in. See that little turned up corner there? All right, that lets you know it's a virtual copy. Okay, so now I can go ahead and take that, bring it into my development. Okay, there's my original, and I can go ahead and create an all new edit. Okay, so now I can, if I want, I can go ahead and say, well, you know what, I want to do a landscape mode. Okay, I want to do a black and white conversion. Okay, where are we? Transform. I want to, let's see, make these. I'm just going to do a very quick edit here. Oh, what the heck? Let's return that. Okay. All right. So now I have a not only a color version here, all right, but I now have a black and white version based on that one original raw file, all right, without losing my original edit. Okay, so I can't take, excuse me 1 second. It's the wife. She knows I'm busy, and of course she's got a call. Oh my God. So now I can go ahead and say, all right, I'm going to tweak this, I'm going to tweak that. Make it look the best I can for my black and white conversion. And now I have two edits for that one image. Okay. Now, where this comes into play for me is I may have one image that I really, really enjoy that I want formatted for different outputs. So I might say, well, format one to be output for my wallpaper, for my desktop wallpaper. Okay. But I also want one that's going to be thinner and longer for maybe a banner on a web page. Okay. I don't want to undo everything that I did previously. So I'm going to make a duplicate, a virtual copy, and make whatever changes to, you know, my cropping, and then export that. Okay. So I can have as many virtual copies of an image that I want for whatever purpose I want. All right. And it's great if you want to experiment. All right. You've taken an image and you've edited it to a certain point that you're very, very happy with, and you don't want to lose that, but you want to continue experimenting. You're going to go ahead and make a virtual copy and then just play to your heart's content, knowing that your previous edit is safely tucked away. Okay. So hopefully that answers the question. Any other questions? Yes, no, maybe?
Yeah, Duck, I'm going to have to cut this short because I have to go to the store before it closes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yes.
All right,
Hey,
so
thank you very much, Duck.
Bill, I appreciate you hanging out with us.
Alrighty.
You be safe, stay safe,
You too.
and hopefully we'll see you on the next one.
Yes. Tell Diane I said hi.
I definitely will. That was her trying to call in. I keep ignoring her call.
Okay. Have a good one.
All right, Bill, take care.
Bye.
Duck, I have a question about going back to your very beginning of your workflow.
Yes.
When you were loading it up, you said I customize the name of the folder I'm loading it into,
Yes.
so I know what it is. Now, do you do that using after the fact? Do you rename it, or do you do it as part of the import? Because I think it seems like there's a place where you can enter a folder name or.
Okay. Good question. I actually do it after I import. Okay. Now, Brian, you've been to a lot of my workshops. You've already heard my mantra, but I'll repeat it for all the new people here. I like to keep things as simple as possible. All right. The less things I need to change, all right, the less of an error can happen. Okay. So what I do is with Lightroom, I have my import settings set to a default, and I really don't like changing them, because if I start changing things every time I import, the possibility of something going wrong gets increased. All right. So I don't like touching my settings. They're working great. I know exactly where all my images land. I know exactly what Lightroom is doing to all my images on import. I'm not going to mess with that. Okay. So while you can say, all right, I want you to take these images and put them here under this directory with this name, I prefer to do that after. All right. It makes things a little bit simpler for me. All right. That doesn't mean that doing it every single time on import isn't easy for you. All right. It could be. That's where you need to modify your workflow accordingly. All right. So, but what I do is I kind of set everything on autopilot. So I just plug my card into my computer. I hit import, and it takes everything from that card and dumps it into a folder. All right. And it segregates my images according to the date the images were shot. All right. So what it's going to do is it's going to create a folder. All right. And you can see it here. Let me see. Yeah, you can see it here. Where is it? All right. That all these folders start with the date. All right. And these dates are taken from the camera. All right. The date that those photos were taken is going to create a folder with that date. All right. And then once it brings everything in, sorts them to the folders according to the date, at that point, I go to the folder and say, oh, well, this folder are the ones that were taken at the texture workshop. I will then go ahead and right-click, rename, okay? And I will append a real-world title that allows me to serve as that memory trigger as to what's in the contents of the folder. All right, and then I say save. Okay. There are times where I'll do 2 shoots in a day. So Lightroom doesn't differentiate that. It just says, oh, you took, 150 images on that date. It's going to take them all and dump them into a folder. All right. It's then up to me to sort through. And it says, okay, well, my first 50 were taken at the morning and the other 100 were taken in the evening. I will then manually separate the two and then give each folder their own distinct name. Okay. But I do that after Lightroom has ingested the images, simply because that's easier for me to track. All right?
Okay. Yep. Thanks.
All right. Anybody else? Oh, let me bring my chat back up. I lost my chat. Alfredo, have to go. Well, thanks again. I learned things that I didn't know how to do in Lightroom. You are very welcome, Alfredo. I'm glad you found this useful. All right. Hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Okay. Now that we're winding down, what I'd like to do is just go over a few little housekeeping things. First of all, again, thank you for coming out with and joining us on this new platform that we're experimenting with. As I said, normally this workshop is done in my studio live. People bring down their laptops, and as you can see, the schedule here. Lightroom is usually the first Monday of the month at 6 o'clock in my studio. The second Monday of the month is Photoshop, also at 6 o'clock. And the third Monday, what I'm trying is something along this lines. It's a new feature that I'm trying to implement. And it's just basically a Q&A. Where if you have any questions about photography, whether it's exposure or, how to set your camera, what lenses to use, anything to do with editing, feel free to ask your questions, and hopefully I can help you resolve whatever issues you are having. All right, so that's just for my Monday night classes, okay? And hopefully, you can join us. But also, like I said, we're, locked down because of the COVID-19, the quarantine. But once that goes away and life returns back to normal, and especially now that the weather is just starting to get a little bit warmer, what I'd like to do is get back into doing live group workshops, interactive workshops where we actually go out and do something. One of the things that I do every year is the multiplicity shoot, and that's where we go out in a group. We break up into couples, groups of two, and we work together to create multiple images of ourselves within a scene. So you're going to be learning a lot of different skills, composition. But the caveat to that is that you are going to be the subject of your own photos, and you place yourself in different positions, doing different things within the frame. And then later on, we take all those images and we composite them in Photoshop. It's a fun little event, and I hope to do it a couple times this year. Hit different parts of the state so everybody gets a chance to get involved. Also, what I like to do is bring back a popular event that I've done a couple years ago, and that's our photo hunt. And what I have is a deck of cards with tasks or challenges on them, and everybody picks a card, and you have 10 minutes to complete the challenge. We get back together, we compare notes, we share images, we have a laugh at each other's issues, and then we go out and do it again. So stick around for those two. Also, there was a request for doing some street shooting, but here in Connecticut, it's not the best. Obviously going into the city is probably the ultimate in street photography. But for those of us who don't want to travel far, or at this point, because money is very tight, funds are low, So let's try to keep it in state. And so what we'll do is we'll find a location where it's suitable for some street photography, but maybe we'll augment it with doing some architectural photography in as well. So we'll be able to cover both realms and keep everybody happy. Also, what I want to do is up my live Lightroom. Live lighting workshops or studio workshops where, you know, people come into the studio and you learn all about lighting. And what I like to do is possibly reach out to some models and see if we can get some models to, you know, pose for us and be a subject. So those are the workshops that are, you know, I'm hoping to put together. And like I said, I want to continue this online workshop. So join my Facebook page. It's Learn Photography with Duck on Facebook groups. I will inform you of all the workshops on there. Also, if you appreciate what I'm doing with these online workshops, or even with my live workshops, I've set up a Patreon page, and you can see the link down here at the bottom. Patreon.com, Learn Photography with Duck. And of course, whatever you decide to subscribe to, I greatly appreciate all the support I can get. I know, like I said, money's a little tight right now, but anything that you guys can offer, it goes right back into being able to put these workshops together for you, and hopefully we'll grow this channel and the workshops and make it something that, you know, you guys can really appreciate. So anyhow, that's it for now. Thank you for joining us or joining me for the Lightroom class, and we hope to see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.